Hello. So thank you for joining us today. So this is an episode of the Tech Role Model series for the Women in Technology Mentoring Program. And today I'm joined by Donna Wayman, who is the head of UK portfolio for the insurance company Zurich. So Donna, I guess if we could start off just by giving our audience a bit of context around what the head of UK portfolio for a company like Zurich does, that'd be very useful.
Thanks for having me here today virtually. So my role oversees change, so projects, programmes, portfolios within the UK business. It is a team that consists of PMO resource, so project management office resource that support individual projects, but also portfolio resource that looks across all of our change, understanding their resource requirements, their budget, their status, and all of the different elements of a change portfolio. That ranges from IT change through to business change, and everything in between across all of the different types of insurance products we sell in the UK. So our business covers your more traditional kind of retail commercial type insurance products and our life insurance. So there's a whole range of different types of change across the piece.
Yeah, and you've been with that organisation for quite a while now, haven't you?
Yeah, so I've been with Zurich for 15 years. I started as a graduate 15 years ago. When I say it, I can never believe it's been that long, but every time I've kind of been looking for something different, there's always been a brilliant opportunity to kind of use my skills in a different way. And I think Zurich's a great company to work for culturally, so it's been a really good fit for me and what I need from a company and from the roles that I've taken.
Yeah, so you mentioned you started as a graduate. So your degree was in English and drama. Am I right in saying that? So when you got on the grad scheme at Zurich, was that a conscious effort to get into tech, or was it just the opportunity that was in front of you and you took it?
I have always followed the things that I loved and enjoyed. So when I went to uni to do drama and English, I did it not thinking that I knew what I wanted to do with it, but thinking that I knew I'd enjoy my time there and I'd enjoy the subject. And that seemed like a good decision to make. When it came to leaving university, I knew that I really wanted to use my organisational skills. People would call me bossy. I'd like to say maybe that's not always the case, but and I wanted to use some of those skills, and I knew that would kind of fix me quite well in the business world, particularly in more of an operational role. So I didn't really know that it was tech or IT, but I knew it was kind of that, how do I make a business and a company work and make it efficient and effective? I wasn't sure that was the place I definitely wanted to go, and I definitely didn't have insurance in mind. I applied to lots of different graduate schemes in that kind of operational project management type area. I also had a place to be a drama teacher, and I kept them both until almost the very last day, and thought, well, I could always go back and be a teacher at a different point, but I probably won't get an opportunity to take a role like I was being offered in Zurich in a large corporate company with the type of degree I've got very often. So, and yeah, turned out to be a good decision.
I think you made the right choice. I can say that I'm part of the teacher, so I'm allowed to say that. So getting into that grad scheme, apart from the obvious skill of being bossy, what do you think it was that you took to that role? What do you think were the important skills that you needed to be successful in starting a tech career?
I think the willingness to learn and understand topics, even if they're not what you know. And for me, that was critical because I didn't know anything about insurance. I didn't know anything about IT. Yeah, I was going to work delivering change in an insurance company and mainly doing their IT change delivery. So I think that willingness to go, I don't know what this is, I haven't heard about it, or I haven't learned about it, or I don't have the educational background, but being able to go and understand it. So I think that learning mindset, and the pragmatism that comes with that, of being really clear about what you need to know versus what you'd like to know and finding the right boundaries. So not trying to get into the depths of everything, but yeah, definitely being open to learning opportunities, to finding new information and skills, even if you don't have the background in that specific area. And I think taking a chance on things that might be different. So as part of my rotations, I wanted to do something market facing because I knew that I wanted to learn a bit more about not the IT side of it, but actually how it felt to be customer facing. So, I put my hand up and said, can I find an opportunity to do this? And all of those types of experiences, I think, made me more rounded coming out of the graduate scheme rather than having spent 3 years doing IT change rotations. So I think being pushy or clear about what you want and the experiences you want to get that make you more rounded is a good thing at the start of that career.
Yeah, and obviously your role is tech and business change, so you're looking across the whole enterprise. But how technical do you find that you've had to become to be able to manage those large tech transformations?
I think it's an interesting career journey when you go from coming in quite junior in projects, and I have taken a very traditional journey, I would say, for the project world through more junior project management to large complex programs up to portfolios. And then where I am now is across the portfolio, the level of technical, low level technical expertise you need, I think reduces as you get higher, but becomes just as valuable up at that top level of your career, if that makes sense. So I think in delivering change, I've had to get very technical, and I think that's where my base understanding comes from. So I think when you're delivering an IT project, you have to rely on your subject matter expertise, or at least I've had to, because I'm never going to be an expert in every element of the IT change that I'm delivering. We also work with a lot of outsourced third parties, so they are our experts, but you need to know enough to be able to challenge them and talk to them in their own language. So there's definitely in my delivery career where I was managing. So one of the major changes I did right in the middle of my career was changing all of our footers on our letters in all of our systems. So 50 plus systems, 15 different suppliers. And we had to go into each one in its technology and make sure that we had the right confetti on our letters to make sure that that was correct. Sounds really simple, but across that kind of complex landscape, it's not. And you need to be able to get right into, well, what are we doing in that system? But you don't need to be able to do it. And I think that's the line. So I've managed teams of developers, I've managed outsourced third parties doing IT change. I couldn't do any of their jobs. All of that's probably made me more rounded in now when I'm looking at the portfolio overall. I know what those things are and I'm able to kind of pinpoint where there might be concerns or where I want to know more.
Yeah. So what sort of things can you do on a day-to-day basis then to develop enough knowledge without having to go off and do a course and become an expert in something?
It's funny because I've moved around quite a bit. So, and probably the best example is when I moved into data. So 3 years ago, I had the opportunity to become a head of the data delivery team, which was a very technical kind of team with developers and operational team, and I knew I could never be a data expert, but I went and sat with our developers, with our architects. I said, show me what you do, show me how you do it, show me the tooling you're using. And I've used that technique quite a few times in my career to go right down into the detail to make sure I understand, make sure I know the terminology, make sure I've seen it for myself and it's real, to then be able to come and step back and say, right, I understand more about what I need to do.
Yeah.
I think the other thing is accepting when you don't have a skill set and making sure you have the right people around you that do have that skill set, that being unapologetic about the fact that I'm not the expert in that, but actually these people are, and we've got a good relationship, and using them to move things forward.
Yeah. Okay. Now there's quite a few interesting things about your career journey that I want to pick up on, and they're all relatively unique to the people we've had on this program before. The first one, I guess, is the fact that you haven't had to move from company to company to get a promotion and get a new opportunity, which some people quite often think they have to do. So how have you managed to stay within an organisation for such a long period of time, and how do you create those new opportunities for yourself to progress?
I think it's a mixture of creating opportunities for yourself and being open to opportunities when they might appear around you in less than obvious places. So a couple of my changes have come through restructures and reorganisations, which could have been, there weren't things that I necessarily saw coming, but actually were a great opportunity and really developed a different set of skills. So I think there's an element of playing with the things around you that change to think, actually, where could I make a difference? I think the second thing is really strong career management. And I know that sounds really simple, but I sat very early in my graduate days and we did a lot about managing your own career and not doing it casually, but actually having a plan or having a clear view of the skills you wanted to achieve, having a clear view of your stakeholders in your career, not in the work you're doing, but who's going to stand up for you. And I think that's always put me in good stead, so that when they're thinking about different opportunities, or I'm talking about what I'd quite like to get in terms of experience, I know who my stakeholders are, I know who rates me and who rates my skills, and I've kind of set those conversations up and set those relationships up, so that then when I'm getting a bit bored, or I need to look for something else, or want a new challenge, they're kind of ready there and waiting to have those conversations. And I don't think that happens. It does happen to some people by accident, but for me, it was certainly about, right, who haven't I got to that I need to see, I need to build a relationship with to move my career forward.
Yeah, so you purposely sought out people that could act as sponsors for you. Has any of that been done through formal mentorship, or has it always been through informal relationships where they just watched out for you?
I've had brilliant mentors through the years, and I've picked them different people at different points for what I needed. I've also had brilliant managers that have been really supportive and really championed me. And I think there's a lot to be said for who you work for and whether their values are similar to you, and whether they understand you as a person and what you bring to the organisation. And I've had a lot of that. But I think they're both equally important, because a mentor shouldn't be somebody that's your manager, and you should get different things from both of them. And yeah, they've definitely played across my career in different ways.
Yeah, and what are the main skills that you've relied on mentors to develop? What are the things that helped you to progress into that leadership career from a purely project managerial role?
I think my best mentors have been the ones that have a wider network of people than I do, and a wider range of skills than I do, because you don't know what you don't know. And actually, when my career, while I say it's been linear in experience, actually the way I've applied those skills has been really varied. But that's because people like my mentors have said, have you thought about applying your change management skills in data or in somewhere different? So I think choosing somebody that's got the breadth, and I think if you're within your own company, choosing somebody that will actively mentor and almost sponsor you and make your name better known and give you those opportunities is a really helpful thing as well.
Yeah, no, good. I think the thing that blew me away the most when we first spoke was the fact that for the last 8 years you've worked part-time. And over that period of time, your career is in no way stalled or taken a backward step. You've actually you've got promotion. So you moved into that director of data delivery role. You've now moved into the head of UK portfolio role. That will probably seem like quite a challenge to a lot of people to say, I'm going to take this lifestyle change, to be around my family more and things. How have you managed that?
It's been challenging. I had 2 kids in that period as well, so I also have a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old. It has been challenging. It's not easy. And when I look back at it, I've made the best decisions at those points in my life for what felt most important. And that hasn't always been work. And I probably shouldn't say that, but it hasn't always been work. Sometimes it's been, I've reduced my hours because I need to spend more time with my children. Nowadays, I think the conversation is more about, not everything can't win every day. So I can't be a good mum, a good wife, a good friend, and a good at work every day. Some days one of them will come to the top. So some days I will work late, I won't see my kids at bedtime, but there'll be something really important I've had to do. And another day I will leave early and I will spend time with my kids. So I think deciding on a day-to-day basis where the boundaries are for you is where it's worked for me now. I think also earlier when I started working part-time, it was about working out for me what was non-negotiable at home. So what was really important that I knew I needed to protect, and being vocal about that with the people that I worked for, so they understood the things that are important. And by that, I mean, for me, there was things like I didn't want to ever miss sports day, and I wanted to make sure that I left at my time when I was meant to leave on a Friday, because it was really important I picked my kids up and did something with them. And other days I could be more flexible, but almost contracting with the people you work with, say those things are really important for me. My hours allow for them, but actually my workload doesn't always, but they're the things I'm going to try and protect. And I think I'm really lucky I work for a company that has a really strong flexible working culture. So we advertise every job on a part-time job share, flex work basis. We have a flex work policy that applies to anybody. I mean, that wasn't always in place, but that culture has always underpinned the way we've worked. And that was like talk about being a good fit for me and culturally, and what I need in terms of finding that balance between part-time being at work and being at home and being present at home.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that thing about you being part-time for such a long period of time. And the first one is how you as an individual have managed that and how you brokered the subject in the first place, you know, when you first spoke to your employer about it. But I think the other thing as well is for any of the leaders watching this video to understand that that doesn't mean that, you know, you're any less focused on the role and you're being a burden on the team. The other insane thing about you and your team is that there's such a high population of women in the team, so I think it's 6 out of 7, but also that every single one of those women in the team work part-time. And I think most companies would find it surprising that you can make that work. And it's great that you have and that you can.
I think you need to have a mindset to want to make it work, because it isn't easy dealing with that for any of us when we're trying to work around one another. And I think being realistic about the give and take of the situation, particularly at a more senior level, you know, I don't count my hours and nobody else really does. I get the job done and that's what matters. And I try and protect my one day off to do the things that I need to do that aren't work related. But that doesn't always happen, and I'm absolutely fine with that. That's not a problem, but that's my choice and I'm in control of that. I think the interesting thing with my team, so there's 30 people in my team, and as you said, the management group are 7 of us, 6 women. And I think we set up a contract quite early on between us. So when we formed the team, we did something called the Manual of Me, and it's a tool that you can use to share with other people what's important to you, your motivations, your values, how you work best, what your default mode is under stress. And I filled it in first and shared mine, but they all did the same. And it was a really good mechanism for us to talk about things that I said, you know, what's important, where are my non-negotiables, what do I need? And being really open about those things. And I think it sets a really nice framework for when you're working in that environment where people are working different hours and different times. And I think in the world we're going to, or already in, with virtual working, hybrid working between home and office, those kind of understandings of how people work best is really important. And I would encourage people, even if you don't have part-time employees, to actually encourage those type of conversations.
Yeah. And I'm sure that the culture around, you know, being open to flexible working and those kind of things harbours the ability to do this. But how have you gone about creating a leadership team that is, you know, 6 out of 7 females? Because companies I speak to, you know, one of the main reasons they speak to us is they struggle to attract female talent, especially into those more senior roles. So, you know, what's the secret sauce?
Most of my team have worked at Zurich for a long time as well, and we've kind of grown and encouraged them to take more challenging roles, to develop themselves. So I don't think there's a secret sauce. I think there's an element of the culture that we embrace that, and I think being somebody that works flexibly means that you're more tolerant, I think, of other people that work flexibly. So I think there's that kind of element. But I don't think there's a secret sauce. I will say, and it doesn't work for my team, but because we've all been here for quite a while, but the advertisement of all of our jobs on a part-time job share basis massively increased the number of female applicants we had, particularly for senior roles. You know, Google it. There was a press release on it. It's made a massive difference to the number of women that will even consider applying for the roles, because they know that we're open to have a conversation immediately about what the hours of that job might be. And in the data space, when we were recruiting particularly, we got a lot more people kind of coming in through the door because they knew they could talk to us straight away and say, you know, I want to work 4 days, I want to work 3 days, can you make that work? And there's very few scenarios where you can't make that work. You just need to choose to make it work, and you need to put that effort in to make that work.
Yeah. So your success isn't through, you know, external hiring, it's through promotion and you know, support of the women that were already in the business. So what things does Zurich have in place internally to facilitate that? Are there anything else that other companies could learn from?
We have a really excellent women's innovation network. My boss, Anita Fernquist, is the chair of it in the UK, and it is a place where we come together and it's for men and women, but to talk about how do we champion the skills that generally women are lacking. So we get lots of external speakers. We have a development program as part of it called LEAP, which is about kind of giving anybody that wants to, but it is predominantly women, the skills and experience to move to the next level of their career. So I would say any sort of network that brings people together, that focuses on things that are important for women, is really important. And I think it's also been an education for us. They worked alongside the Ensuring Women's Futures initiative, which was about making sure that women understood their financial kind of position and the potential detriment they might be in because they might have had maternity leave or they may have worked part-time, and making them think about what that means for their future, their pensions, their retirement, and at each stage of life, you know, what decisions you might have to make and how being a woman and the way that women might work differently to men might impact that. So I think I think having that kind of network is invaluable.
Yeah, so I've kind of made an assumption based on what surprised me when we first spoke about the challenges you faced around having a young family, switching to a part-time basis to then be able to still get promotions, which I think is incredible. Are there any other things that you feel, you know, being a woman in tech has specifically put barriers in your way, or challenges you faced as a result of that?
I think there's an interesting dynamic between being somebody who manages change. So I wouldn't badge myself a woman in tech, although I am, because I've worked in tech change delivery for the best part of 15 years. And can you really be in the tech field if you're not a developer, if you're not right down in the detail? And I think you absolutely can. And I think we need a balance of skills in tech that are the people that do the detail and have those kind of careers, but also people that understand that language and understand the way that tech works, but actually can bring it at more of a leadership level. And I feel really passionate about the change and change management and portfolio management skills and how important they are to that tech field, and applying those together and the strength they can have. So I think I spent a lot of time explaining what portfolio management is, why it's important, the value that it can have, and how if you do it correctly and in a really efficient way, it actually can help you deliver your technical goals, your strategic goals for the company. So I think it's been a bit of a journey explaining that, building up that knowledge within my own team, within the sector from an insurance perspective and wider. And that's not specifically to being a woman, that's just more about bringing those skills together, I think, and bringing the tech world with the change world.
Yeah, and something you mentioned there is there might be this perception that to work in tech you need to be a developer, and even to work in change and stand toe to toe and challenge somebody that works in the tech space on a technical delivery, you feel like you need to be a developer. You know, a lot of people would badge that as imposter syndrome. You know, it's the belief that your skills you have aren't quite right for the situation you're in. So how do you personally deal with those and overcome those kind of thoughts that you have in your head about, am I skilled to have this conversation with this person?
Sometimes I just decide that I'm not, and there's somebody better, and I'm fine with that. So that is sometimes the answer. I think I've definitely got better at it with time. I found that much harder earlier in my career, and I would find myself going down rabbit holes to lots more lower information. So I felt able to talk about things. I think as I've got more confident in my abilities in my career, and frankly my responsibility's grown, I've not had the ability to do that so much, and you're almost forced to sit with a bit more of that discomfort because it's not your job to be down in the detail and you don't have the time. And I think that's partly with also, you know, working flexibly the way I do, you kind of got to prioritize ruthlessly what you do. So I think there's an element of experience tells you that it's easier to deal with that, and the time and the breadth of your roles mean that you can't go down to that detail, so you have to just let it sit more comfortably that you don't know the detail or you're not a developer, and that's fine.
Yeah, no, excellent. And obviously, you know, you're supporting the Women in Tech Mentoring Program as one of our mentors. What else do you think that people can do to bring more women through into tech and support the growth and development of, you know, women in that tech or change community?
I think the work that's been done by some organisations down into the schools to help them to get the schools and the women in schools understanding that tech is not a male career is really important. And when I worked in the data space, we kind of partnered heavily with the Women in Data, and they did a lot of initiatives to get schools understanding that data is a career, and it's not gender specific, and actually there's some really interesting skill sets that we can bring. So I think there's more to be done at that end of the spectrum, to make sure that people are open to their career options at an early stage and are not opting themselves out of a kind of more traditional tech route by not opting into those subjects when actually they could, and it could be interesting.
Yeah, no, hopefully some people in that demographic you speak of will see this video, because it's going to be on our Tech Role Models YouTube channel, which is aimed at schools. So one last question, and I'll give the audience a chance to put some questions in the chat if they want to now. But yeah, if people in that demographic are watching this video, what is that one piece of advice that you would give somebody at the early part of their career that you either received or wish you'd received when you were that age?
I think to be open in the opportunities you put yourself forward for. So I think not ruling anything out until you've understood it, and kind of exploring every avenue. And I think in my early career, I made sure I made the effort to explore things that I thought I wouldn't like, to make sure I didn't like them. And I did some rotations and things that I really thought I wouldn't like, confirmed I didn't like it, but it gave me that real confidence that what I was doing was the thing that I wanted to do and was the career that I wanted to make. And so I think being open to all those opportunities, exploring the things that you might like and even the things you might not like, so that you can make a really rounded view of where you take your career and be really informed about that.
I've never heard that before. That's so brave to actually take on things that that you think you don't want to do, just to rule them out, or to see you might surprise yourself. To be honest, I think that's probably the way I got my career path. I got on the graduate scheme at Reed, and I'd purposely avoided applying for recruiter jobs before that because I didn't want to be a recruitment consultant. And 12 years later, here I am. So yeah, it's a decent piece of advice, that. So yeah, I don't think I have any other questions. So yeah, thank you for your time, Donna. Really enjoyed the conversation. I think it's inspiring to hear that you can manage, family and work, and it doesn't have to be family at the detriment of work. It can absolutely be in the right organisation, still progress that career and get to senior leadership level whilst doing the right thing by what's at home. So yeah, no, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks, Ken.
For joining us. Bye.